It's DSP's Game of the Year Awards, the top 10 best games of 2014. Honorable mention, The Wolf Among Us. So after the success of The Walking Dead, Telltale Games decided to jump into another episodic series in The Wolf Among Us. Now this one again started in 2013, but I wanted to give it an honorable mention because it did conclude in 2014. Starring the Big Bad Wolf, or Big B for short, who's now become a private detective and basically the law when it comes to Fable-like characters in this cool combination of almost a noir, mystery, darker tone kind of a story. It really is an interesting kind of a deal with a wide variety of characters from different kinds of fables, mythos, and fairy tales combined with gritty gore, adult-oriented language and situations. I really did enjoy The Wolf Among Us. And you might say to yourself, well, then why didn't it make your top 10 games of the year? I'll just be quite simple and quite honest with you. I liked the other games slightly better. You know, The Walking Dead did make my top 10. This one did not. It probably, honestly, is number 11 on my list of favorite games of 2014. It's that close, but I definitely wanted to give it a high up, honorable mention recommendation. I liked it. You probably liked it too. Check it out if you haven't. Alright everyone, so from here on out, here's how we're going to handle it. There's 3 games that I feel all kind of deserve the title of Game of the Year of 2014. We're very briefly going to gloss over each one of them for the remainder of this video, and then next part we're going to eliminate one until finally we have our showdown between the top 2 and our Game of the Year contender. So let's get started with the top 3 games of the year in no particular order. Our first real official Game of the Year nominee is South Park: The Stick of Truth. Now undoubtedly this game had lots of anticipation. I heard about this over 2.5 years ago and I was stoked. As a longtime fan of the South Park series, admittedly hadn't been watching it for the past several years, but when I heard that Bethesda was going to be making a RPG style game with the characters from South Park, the original voice actors, and all of that crazy kind of humor, and that yes, the actual original writers of South Park would be writing the main plot of the game, I was stoked. Unfortunately, the game got stuck in development hell for a while, but when it finally came out, I was pleasantly surprised. Yes, many firsts in this game, including realistic explanations of how kids could basically cosplay out RPG-style fights, the fact that it was the first time you actually saw the town of South Park all on a map-style setting and got a realistic view of where locations were in the town, the amount of surprise appearances in the game, cameos, it's absolutely great. I'm going to go into more detail, but definitely this is one of my favorite games of the year by far, including probably one of the funniest moments I've ever seen in a game, period, and definitely deserves to be nominated as a Game of the Year contendee. Our next Game of the Year nominee is Dark Souls 2. Now, admittedly, a lot of people were skeptical when I played Dark Souls 2 because they know that when I played the first game, I didn't know what I was in for. Incredibly hard difficulty, unforgiving kind of combat, the fact that basically you need to put tons of hours into the game to basically learn everything, the fact that it's tons of trial and error, and everyone knows that way back when in 2010 and 2011 when I played Dark Souls, the original, I didn't really like it, and I basically stopped playing it. However, since then, I had returned to the game, and through the power of live streaming, was able to actually get a handle for both Dark Souls 1 and Demon's Souls. So when I played Dark Souls 2, I knew what I was in for, and I very much enjoyed the game. Undoubtedly, yeah, there were a few parts of the game that I got stuck on and repeatedly raged at, but for the most part, I think I did a pretty damn good job of playing the game, taking my time, learning the system, yes, even finding ways to abuse it with the magic that I was spamming, but still, I found a way to win, and with the exception of maybe 1 to 2 incredibly cheap and difficult bosses for the build that I had built, I pretty much soloed the entire game of Dark Souls 2. In the incredible amount of content, the amazing amount of side content and optional bosses, the wide variety of enemies, of gameplay, of locations, I mean, it's one of the most complete games of the year by far, and probably some of the most gameplay you'll get out of a single game from the year of 2014. The only negative I have to say about Dark Souls 2 is that it runs exactly the same as the graphical engine of Dark Souls 1, and it does have some of the same issues when it comes to for example, low frame rate in certain areas. I don't understand why they couldn't upgrade the graphics, and a lot of people had issues with that when the game was released. But if you're playing a game for what it is, Dark Souls 2, one of the best games of the year. I really enjoyed it despite its difficulty factor. I actually think it probably ranks in there as one of my favorite playthroughs of all time, quite honestly. I hope that you guys enjoyed it as much as I did, and that's why it's definitely one of my Game of the Year contenders. And the last game to be a Game of the Year contender for 2014, that's right, it's Dragon Age Inquisition. And you know, even before I get started, I know a lot of people are going to have issue because guess what? I haven't beaten Dragon Age Inquisition. Unfortunately, it came out during a time period in late November when so many other games were coming out that were longer, extended games that I didn't have a chance to just sit down and play it for weeks on end so I could beat it. But that's actually a testament to the quality of the game. It's incredibly long if you do all the side content. The side content really isn't very boring or repetitive, but you actually end up enjoying it if you like the combat system of the game. Lots of returning characters from previous Dragon Age games, choices that you made in the previous two Dragon Age games actually making some cool concrete connections to this one. And for as far as I am in the game, seeing multiple returning characters, a plot line that involves storylines from the previous two games, I really love Dragon Age 2. Dragon Age Inquisition, excuse me. And I didn't even mention the fact that the graphics are amazing, the sound, the voice acting, the dialogue that they wrote for some of these characters, the fun side quest for each character. I mean, I could go on and on and on about this. Now, of course, yeah, I have to admit, it's kind of like more of a Dragon Age Origins 1.5, meaning that, yeah, it's kind of the same game engine from the first game with some tweaks, with better graphics. Did they do anything absolutely revolutionary, knock you on your ass in this game? No, but I don't know if they necessarily needed to for the amount of content, for the amount of enjoyment that you'll get out of just a single playthrough of this game. It's a lot of fun and a lot of quality. So Dragon Age Inquisition, my third and final nominee for Game of the Year of 2014, and I'm definitely enjoying it. Well, alright, I've given each of the top 3 games a little bit of a say. When we come back, I'm going to eliminate a certain game. I'm going to give you my honest feelings on it and explain why, and narrow this down to the top 2 for the grand finale. Don't miss it.